Hey y'all, what's up? If you are new here, welcome. If you've been rocking with me for a while, welcome back to Moments with Meci. I'm Meci, and today we are finally, without further ado, we are finally getting into my home birth story. All right, everybody, so I'm not going to hold y'all any more longer. We're going to jump right into it. So let's go to the morning of. So it was around 6:30, 6:40 in the morning. I woke up out of my sleep to go use the bathroom and also to order nursing beads. I have been wanting to order these nursing beads from a friend of mine who had just started like a baby toy company with food grade material for the toys, silicone food grade material. And so she had these really pretty nursing beads that she had, and I wanted to get some for my daughter. For those of you that aren't familiar with nursing beads, when your baby breastfeeds, nursing beads are something to hold their attention, something for them to do with their hands. Because when babies breastfeed, especially in the younger years, they kind of get antsy and trying to figure out what to do with their hands. So it's just something to keep their focus so that they're not just all everywhere pulling on you and pulling at other things. So yeah, woke up out of my sleep to go to the bathroom and ordered that. And I came to the bathroom, I went pee, and after I went pee, I remember looking at the clock and it said 6:45. I just could not get up. I just felt like the most excruciating pain that I probably had ever felt in my life. But I didn't know what was going on at the time because the contraction feelings were so different from my first pregnancy. Every time I went to stand up, it basically knocked me back down, just in the sense that I sat back down. Not that it literally knocked me back down, I'm being extra. But so I would have to sit back down. I could not get up off of the toilet. So after that happened, maybe about 3 times, I was like, okay, something is wrong. But I did not think that, I was going into labor. At that time, I was 40 weeks and 6 days. So I was actually in the process of making an appointment to go get an ultrasound done to check and make sure that my fluid levels and everything was fine, because I had reached the mark of almost hitting 42 weeks. At a certain point, when you hit over 40 weeks, it gets to a point where it's no longer safe for you to, through midwifery, so with my midwife, in their practice at a certain amount of weeks, it's no longer safe for them in their practice to be able to deliver you at home, and you have to deliver in a hospital. So I was close to that mark. So they were getting ready to send me in to just get an ultrasound done to make sure that everything was okay. I was fine. But I didn't make it there because I ended up going into labor at 40 weeks and 6 days. So, yeah, I called my mom after I kind of figured out, I was like, okay, maybe these are contractions and the baby is coming. So, I can't remember if it was before I called my mom and my midwife or if it was after. But I remember I started losing my mucus plug. I had never experienced that before. I had seen pictures on Google before in the past of women that had lost their mucus plug, and it would look like slimy or be bloody. So like the bloody show is something that they say too, like when you lose your mucus plug. But when I remember looking in the toilet, and I'll post a picture. Disclaimer: if you do not want to see this, fast forward. I will put down in the description box where the timestamp is past this. But I know for some women, they want to see to have an idea of what to look for. That's how I am. So I'll post a picture because I did take a picture of it. But yes, I lost my mucus plug. And so I can't remember if that was before I called my mom and my midwife or after. But at some point I knew, okay, it's time. So I remember calling my mom and telling her like, hey, I think it's time. I think the baby's coming. She was getting ready to take my niece to school. It was, like I said, when I looked at the clock, it was like 6:45. So she went, took my niece, then she was gonna head this way, call my midwife, let her know, hey, I think it's time. In the midst of me talking to my midwife, I'm having contractions, so she's hearing like, okay, these are close together. I think she was telling me I was like 5 minutes apart at the time when I was on the phone with her, with my contractions. And so she was gonna get ready to come over and everything. So I was just stuck, y'all. I was stuck in the bathroom. I could not move. The intensity of my contractions were so strong. I just could not move. So the most comfortable position for me was staying in that sitting position. I know there's the concern that maybe, oh, what if you would have had your baby in the toilet? I feel like maybe mommy instincts would have kicked in at that time. I don't feel like I would have had my child in the toilet. I would have been able to at least, you know, catch at that moment if that would have happened. But don't worry, I was able to get up eventually. But I basically labored there until I could get up and make it to my bed. And when I tried to get in my bed, the pain of moving from my contractions was so intense, I could not lift up. My bed is kind of high, so I couldn't lift up to get onto my bed. So I also had a couch that was being delivered that morning, so I had to think about that. But because of how I was feeling, I knew I was not going to be able to get up and go answer the door. So I went and unlocked the door so that my mom could get in when she got here. We came back in the room, and the most comfortable position for me was on that toilet. So I came back and I sat. And I sat there for a while until my mom got here. And then when my mom got here after a little while, she tried to get me back to the bed. And in the midst of her trying to get me back to the bed, I just wanted to go to the floor. So I was on the floor. I have wood floors in my bathroom. So to me, the cool sensation of the air recirculating that was coming up off the floor, that was helping to soothe me at the moment when I was down laboring. So I was like kind of like in a child's pose position on the floor, and I was in and out of sleep, y'all. Throughout my contractions, I was so tired because I was up late that night before. I got no rest. I think I probably went to sleep like around 2 or 3. So when I woke up out of my sleep to go to the bathroom, it had been long before I actually had fallen asleep. So I was just in and out of sleep through my contractions on the floor. And then at some point, my midwife and my assistant midwife and my student midwife that was positioning herself as a doula for my labor and delivery, they got here. I think it was like around 7:30, 7:40 when my mom got here. It was about 7 o'clock when I called. I labored most of my pregnancy between the toilet and the bathroom floor. And after a while, once they all got here, I remember my assistant midwife, who was acting as my doula, her and my mom tried to get me up off the floor. Many times they tried to get me up, and it was like, let's try to get you to the bed. But my contractions were so strong and that position was so comfortable and soothing to me, I just did not want to move. So I was just like in and out of sleep, laboring in my bathroom for most of the time. I had a peanut ball that my midwife had gave me the night before. If you're not familiar with the peanut ball, it's an exercise ball, but it's literally shaped like, if you think about the peanut, if you think about like Planter's peanut and how a peanut is shaped in kind of like that open 8 curve or Coke bottle curve, it's exactly how the ball is shaped. So I use that to kind of leverage myself. After a while, I asked them to bring that to me, and I just laid on that and labored in the bathroom. Then after a while, they were able to get me up, and I was able to get up, and they walked me to my bed and sat me on the edge of my bed. And so I sat and labored there for a little while they got the birthing pool ready for me. And so I was in and out of contractions. I had my mom on one side and my doula on the other side. And I remember just as my contractions was come, I was shaking my foot. And then I remember my doula was really gifted in the way that she does the work of doula. Her voice is just like made for that art and that skill of nurturing a woman and speaking to a woman and coaching a woman through their laboring experience. Because when I tell you, when she was talking to me, it was like my body was just in order to her voice, like uncontrollably it did what she was telling me to do. So I would tense up and raise my shoulders, or I was kind of like not sitting relaxed in the bed in between my contractions. So if she would see me tense up or like lift up, she would just talk real calmly and softly. And this does no justice to what she did in her voice, but she would just be, relax your shoulders, feel your body sinking into the bed, allow your hips to release, and just sit into bed. Like, as soon as she was telling me to do whatever it was, like my body was just doing it. And it wasn't me. My body was just like listening and doing what she was telling me to do. So it was really beautiful to me to think back on that. And I told her, I was like, you are very gifted and talented at, your work as a doula. My body was relaxed, and the way that you would talk to me, it was just responding to what you were telling me to do. So if you are pregnant or considering having a child and think about pregnancy, I do strongly recommend looking into a doula. I believe they are very beneficial in just creating that space and that mindset for the mom. I believe there's a lot of work that you can do beforehand outside of a doula to get your mindset there and to be able to have that type of experience. But if you don't do that, I do recommend at least getting a doula. So after laboring on the side of my bed for a little bit, I did end up getting checked for the first time in my pregnancy, and it was around 10 something, and I was at 5 centimeters. Yes, 5. Yeah, 5 centimeters. And then I remember asking them, was the pool ready? And so I was able to go finally get into the pool. And when I went and got in that pool, y'all, like everything, the water counteracts the contractions. And so my body just felt more relaxed and at ease. My contractions were still very strong. They were super intense. I only experienced contractions in my abdomen when I was pregnant with my son. With my daughter, I had contractions in my abdomen. I had contractions in my sides. I had serious contractions in my back. And also contractions in my pelvis area. I did not know that you could have contractions in multiple areas at one time. So it was just really intense, like a rush, like a wave every time my contractions came on. And so yeah, that water helped to counteract that pressure, and it really helped. while in the pool, I just labored. I didn't fall asleep at that time because it was just basically in those final stages and trying to push. And so I would push and she would go back up, and I would push and she would be down, and then she would go back up. And so pushing was very intense for me this go around. And when it finally got to the moment where she was coming, I remember beforehand my assistant midwife, her talking to me, because she was the one that delivered, not my midwife, my assistant midwife, she did. And so I remember her talking to me beforehand and telling me, you know, this is what will happen, this is what could possibly happen, do you want to do this, do you want to do that? So she talked to me about, you know, the process and everything beforehand, before I got in. And even before the day I went to labor at one of my appointments, we discussed that. But she asked me if I wanted to help guide my daughter out. So basically putting my hand down to help deliver her. And I did, and that was the plan. So in that moment when I was pushing, and when she finally came, when she crowned, so when her head was at the opening, and she asked me if I wanted to put my hand down and help guide her. So once she finally had crowned and I pushed her head out, my hand was down and I could feel her. Well, before that, let me rewind. So as I was pushing, my daughter was coming out in Caul, which is so dope to me. And I feel like if I would have just had the mindset to not be trying to rush in that moment, that my daughter would have been born in the placenta, because as she was coming out, she was still in the sac, meaning she was still in the placental sac. My water had not burst. So I could actually feel the placenta before my water had popped. And it was just like a bulge of a bubble that had came out as she was coming out. And so at one point I was just trying to rush in that moment, and then my water ended up breaking, the sac did bust, and then she did, I pushed her head out. But I believe if in that moment I would have took my time and not tried to rush in that instance, that my baby would have been born in Caul. And y'all could look it up. There's a I'm gonna put a link in the description. There's a young lady that's friends with a friend of mine. She has a podcast. I believe, I always mess it up, I think it's called Women in Color or Mamas in Color. But she actually had her baby in Caul. Her baby was born in the placenta, and her birth story is just very beautiful. So I would tag her information in the description below. But yeah, I felt like I would have had that same experience in that moment. But anyways, after her head came out, I helped guide that much, and then pushing was just so intense for me. I didn't get to continue helping to guide her out. So I just pushed, and my baby girl was here. So my son was asleep throughout most of the delivery. That was a beautiful thing to me, that I was able to be in my home and my son was able to be in an environment that he was used to and to be comfortable, to the point where he didn't even know that mama was in labor half the time. He was in my bed that morning when I went into labor, and when my mom got here, they took him in his room and put him in his bed, and he basically slept up until right when I started to push. After my daughter's head had crowned and I had pushed her head out, my mom went and got him, because I did want him to be present to experience that. We had talked about it for months leading up into when I had my daughter, so it was something that we discussed, to see, me and my son, to see how comfortable he felt. And so we talked about, you know, what he might see, what he didn't want to see. We watched videos to just kind of give him an idea of how it might be. So I knew his trigger points of what was not comfortable for him. I knew what he was comfortable and wanting to see. And we did what was best for us and what I wanted to do for my family. So he was able to experience his sister being born. He was able to see me push her out, and for them to lift her and hand her to me. He was able to see her in that moment, to touch her, and to just feel that love of seeing, you know, his first sibling, his baby sister being born. So that was a beautiful experience. After she was born, I did have a lot of excessive bleeding. So I didn't get to just relax in the pool with her. Like, you know, I might have thought that I would just in that moment. So they got me out of the birthing pool and got me in my bed, and they actually gave me some Pitocin to help my stomach, my uterus start contracting quicker to help stop the bleeding. Then we cut the umbilical cord. My son was able to cut the umbilical cord. So I will put a shot of that here.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Your brother's gonna cut your cord. Yeah. Yeah. You okay?
Mr. Zion?
You okay?
These are yours. You might want to come up closer.
It's okay.
If you need to use your other hand, go ahead.
It's okay, baby.
It's pretty hard to. It's hard to.
Mommy, help you hold it.
Throw my arms in there.
You got your fingers in? Okay, put your fingers in.
Ready?
You ready?
Yep. And it won't hurt her. We got her. And then you might need to open it and reshut it.
Open.
There you go.
Close. Open. Close. It is chewy.
Yeah.
An interesting thing that I learned after the blood stops flowing through the umbilical cord. So we waited to cut the cord until, you know, the blood stopped flowing through. And so it's called delayed cord clamping. And so when we finally did it, the cord was like freezing cold. It was so crazy. Like, if you think about touching an ice box and just like touching the ice, it was that cold. Like, it felt like it was frozen. And it was just how it had like this gummy consistency. It was my first time experiencing the umbilical cord. And so Zion cut that. We ended up cutting it together. And yeah, it was a beautiful experience. I wish if I can go back, I would have implemented this thing called, what is it? Hypno babies. A friend of mine had suggested hypno babies. If you're pregnant or thinking about becoming pregnant, I suggest taking a look at hypno babies and seeing if it's something you're interested in. After the experience with my doula, I do believe that hypno babies will have put me in an amazing mindset during my birth to just have more control or feel more control over my body. Just me personally, I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, so I don't feel like I was mentally in a place that I needed to be in to peacefully feel that connection with my body and just feel the strength of being able to conquer it. Because there were moments when I felt like, you know, I wasn't going to make it through, but I pushed. So I just was telling myself, you got this, you got this, you can do this. And I just tried to, you know, bring my baby through, and I did it. I did it. So to all the moms out there, I tell my story, and I started this journey just to help those moms that are going through labor and delivery or just pregnancy alone, or who are going through pregnancy alone in the sense of not knowing what to expect or going through different symptoms or situations and not understanding and feeling like there might be something wrong. I feel like the topic of pregnancy and what women go through, or their signs and their symptoms, or their labor and delivery story. I feel like it's beautiful that the labor and delivery story is being told more and that conversation is being had more. But I feel like the months of actually carrying a child, that topic isn't discussed a lot. And I feel like a lot of women are alone in that, and the postpartum aspect of it all. So to be able to share my journey in pregnancy, I hope that I was able to help even just one mom. I know I had one mom reach out to me, and based off of my ectopic scare, I was able to help her feel better that everything was going to be okay because she was experiencing some of the same things. So just be encouraged and know that you are not alone. Know that there are other mothers out there who have probably experienced what you have experienced. And just keep moving forward, mama. I did recently do a podcast interview with Time for Some Mom Chat, and we had this discussion about, how the conversation of pregnancy and the symptoms of pregnancy isn't had. And so a lot of women go into it just blindsided on what to expect. And if it's past their first pregnancy with other symptoms, they have sometimes the scare because of the unknown that is happening to them. So this was just a way for me to document in memory and to possibly help a woman at the same time. So I hope that I have been able to be that for you. So if you have stuck around this long with me to hear my birth story, I will be telling you now what I did the night before I went into labor. So the night before I went walking, I had been going walking throughout my pregnancy. Walking is thought to help the baby drop. So I had been going walking. I went walking that night. When we came back, I had been doing squats throughout the week. So, and even before that, my midwife had told me, like, when I would have a contraction or breast and hips, to squat into it, and that would help lower my baby into my cervix and help prepare for labor. I was squatting into I didn't think they were contractions, they were just breast and hips. I was squatting into breast and hips when I would have them. My midwife had provided me with the peanut ball because I did not have a medicine ball. She had provided me with the peanut ball to bounce on, and the peanut ball is so low that I feel like it really helped with helping my daughter to come, because it's like you're basically sitting on the floor in a squatting position. Like, if I can find a picture of a peanut ball, I'll post one here. But I sat on the peanut ball in my son's room with him and played video games for like 3 hours. So I really feel like that helped. I also went and got dates, which dates are like kind of like raisins in a sense to me, the whole date. But my midwife described it as this like chocolatey delicacy. It was not a chocolatey delicacy to me. It was a nasty delicacy. But I ate like 2 of those whole, and they also have dates in more of a candied form, where they're like little squares, little powdered sugar squares. So I ate like a handful of those, and I also ate a can of pineapples. So pineapples actually start contractions. So I remember when I was pregnant with my son, I used to love eating pineapples, and when I would eat them, I would have, I guess I was having contractions, and I just thought they were breast and hips, but I never put 2 and 2 together. Didn't know that you really don't need to eat pineapples when you're pregnant because of that. And so because it was later in my pregnancy and we were trying to get my daughter to come, I did get pineapples to eat to try to help speed along that process. So that was my Make Baby Come starter pack kit. Peanut ball, sitting on it for an hour plus. Walking, dates, and pineapples. So if you are in the process of trying to help your baby come, maybe try out those items that I just gave you and see if it'll help you. But until next time, thank you all for just sticking around for my journey and rocking it with me. And I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Peace and love.